buttons pressed. Good afternoon or evening, wherever you may be viewing this, and welcome to the Force 13 live coverage on the particularly dangerous situation that is currently going on in Mozambique. You're currently looking at the very intense tropical cyclone Idai right now as it is moving ever so slowly and ever so closer to Beira, Mozambique. And this is just looking to be it's a very dangerous situation. We have winds going in excess of 190 kilometers per hour still, even though the storm has weakened a little bit in the last 12 hours. And the current projected CDPS rating is a high end stage 7, which easily puts it in the top 15% of all storms to make landfall in the world in terms of destructive potential. Joining me right now, we have Isaac. So, hello, Isaac.
Hello, Devin. Good to be here. Just watching this really dangerous cyclone as it bursts down to Vieira, Mozambique here.
Yep. And the first thing to be noted here about this storm is that it's not a particularly large storm. The tropical storm force winds only extend out about 100 miles from the center, but the eye in this storm is massive as the storm started to gain some annular characteristics yesterday. And the initial forecasts were expecting this storm to speed up a little bit as it started getting closer to the shore. That speed up has not exactly happened. But the storm, nonetheless, is still just as dangerous as it would have been, whether if the forward speed increased or not. You can see here in the latest frames that this storm seems to be the eye of the storm seems to be just coming ashore, but this satellite is actually about an hour out of date, so it is likely that the eye of the storm is coming ashore right now. And it's important to note that once the winds start dying down and you get past that eye wall and you start going into the eye, it's very important to understand that it's not safe to go out there when the conditions are calm.
Yeah, exactly. This thing is, I mean, if to those who haven't finished their preparations, pretty much right now it's too late to do so. Right now, at this point, with the eye wall pretty
Yeah.
much knocking at your door here. It's not gonna make it any better now because now that the storm's moving inland, the storm surge is gonna go on with it as well. So there's also the danger for high storm surges for these areas.
And that's a
So
and that's another big concern that's going on with this storm is we're going to have the very high storm surge, the extreme storm surge that is going to be coming into Vieira Mozambique. Not only because the unfortunately this storm is going to be moving in just to the north of the city, but the fact that the city is located directly on a river delta, right where two rivers come and meet, and all the water is going to be flooding is going to be pushed right into that right angle, and that's only going to make the storm surge even higher. And Beira is not exactly a very it's not a city that is very far above sea level.
yeah, not really at all, really. And now, because of the way the geography is the way the land is, it's pretty much unfortunately all that water has to go somewhere. It's going to be pushed right into the city of Vieira, pretty much, because it just funnels in due to the geography. So no doubt, storms are just going to be a huge impact on this, even if the wind is not a big issue. I've already seen reports of some wind damage about 3 hours ago. One of our members reported had a picture that showed some minor that's going on currently in the city of Vieira. So I imagine right now it's probably not doing any better. Conditions are just going to start to slowly deteriorate here over the next coming hours, unfortunately. Um, on my screen, I have some satellite imagery of the cyclone. Um, I don't know if we can pull that up, but
Yep, I'm
it
working on it
shows that
right now.
while he's doing that, it shows that I'll just describe it to you. It shows that the eye is currently looks like it's making some wobbles here. In the last few frames, it looks like it's moving a tad bit more to the north. So it's hard to say. See, it's starting to wobble in the loop here on the right. You can see it moving and wobbling there. So um, I don't know if it's doing a northward jog here or if it's still moving westward. I don't know exactly, but it's definitely interesting, Devin.
And you can see right and on the right hand image that you have there, you can see Bera is located pretty much right on the edge of that image, and you can see the very vulnerable location that it's in, and the unfortunate truth that this cyclone's just going to be uh, making landfall just to the north of it, or maybe even the eye might be going directly over Biera. But it does look like the storm is turning a little bit to the north right now.
Yeah, hope not hopefully, but either way, if the storm does make landfall, it does not make landfall directly in the city of Vieira, storm surge will still be a major concern, as we've been stating here the past 2 days, as the storm's gone has had its track over the sea here.
Yep.
But yeah,
Anyways, to talk about the latest information that we have, and this is sort of combining the latest advisory out of the Mozambique Meteorological Department, which is INAM, as well as the advisory from Mateo, France. And we have intense tropical cyclone Idai is currently located at 19.9 south, 36.2 east, though I imagine that is a little bit out of date, with a pressure of 955 millibars. The storm is still containing winds of up to 190 kilometers per hour with gusts up to 210 kilometers per hour. And that is, those are very destructive winds. We're talking that's equivalent to a category 3 on the Saffir Simpson scale for people that are watching in the United States. And this storm is expected to maintain that intensity all the way to landfall. The system continues to move west towards the province of Sofala, and it is expected to make landfall in between the districts of Dondo and Beira. This system has already influenced the weather in the provinces of Zambezi, Sofala, Manica, Tete, and Inhambane, with very strong winds in excess of 200 kilometers per hour. That's the gusts that we are just talking about. And very strong rains, more than 150 millimeters of rain in 24 hours. And honestly, I think that 150 millimeters is a gross underestimate. NM forecasts the continuation of moderate to strong rains, accompanied with severe thunderstorms and gusty winds north of the provinces of Niassa, Cabo Delgado, and Tete. So it basically this is now about that wind, not the wind. Now about that rain thing is that we've already seen estimates that the rainfall has gotten up to potentially as high as 6 inches over the areas that are getting hit with the northern part of the system right now. And rainfall estimates by the time this storm is through can easily be 20 inches plus in the landfall area. And then as the storm moves inland and is expected to stall around the Zimbabwe Mozambique border, rainfall could get up to 30, maybe even 40 inches of rain in that area. To translate that into millimeters, we're talking in the landfall area, we could be seeing rainfall of up to 500 millimeters, and inland near the Mozambique Zimbabwe border, we're talking rainfall in excess of 750 millimeters.
yeah, indeed. This thing will also be a major flooding threat. As we've seen beforehand, it's killed many, I'm afraid, and now that it's making landfall, the death rate is likely to increase. I'm afraid as well too. If you've seen before, this thing passed, well, not passed, but it meandered around Juan de Nova Island for about 3 days, and yesterday it got a move on and started sprinkling, and now it's starting to make landfall here. And I was looking at the sea surface temperatures earlier before the stream, and the surface temperatures increased by about a degree before the storm, right around the area of Vieira. So this thing has the potential of maintaining strength up till landfall, I would say. Hopefully
Yep.
not. Hopefully it starts weakening more. But go ahead, Devin.
Well, you've got when you have a storm like this, when it has a lot of those annular characteristics, the storm is going to be very resistant to any sort of change to its structure. Dry air is not necessarily going to affect it as much. Obviously, the structure of the storm has weakened compared to yesterday when it was up in the Category 4 region. It's down in the Category 3 now. And once this thing moves inland, of course, it's going to start moving over mountains, which is going to decrease the storm's intensity very quickly. Now, that's, of course, the winds. The rain's not going to be going anywhere. And in a region that has already seen catastrophic flooding due to the precursor of this storm, is going to get even more flooding from even more significant rainfall, again, in excess of 500 millimeters in the landfall area, plus the storm surges that are going to be coming in, which will be very significant. I haven't exactly found an exact total on what the estimate of the storm surge will be.
I heard it's about they're predicting around 15 feet of surge. Last I heard yesterday.
Oh, good lord. That is a lot.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's when the storm is a tad stronger. But either the storm surge still has to go in somewhere. I'm afraid. So the surge is still
yep.
going to be
So
quite
that's
big.
that's expecting an almost 5 meter storm surge coming into the Beira region as this storm comes closer to making landfall here. And like I said yesterday, the only saving grace of this storm so far is that it is a rather small size.
Yeah, that's been the case for almost all its life, pretty much. Um, and that because of its small size, that's I believe what made led it to rapidly strengthen and then decrease and then strengthen back up again. And
Yep,
of course, now as it's making landfall, it's hard to tell. I believe it might be maintaining strength here. I'm afraid. So
unfortunately.
even if it weakens 5-10 miles an hour, like we've been stating, the rainfall and then the storm surge itself, especially the storm surge, will still be a major concern. The surge has to go somewhere. It doesn't just vanish with the winds. It has to go somewhere. I'm afraid. And that
Yep.
place where it's going to go is likely going to be Vieira.
And that's really unfortunately the case. I will say that if there's anybody in the comments section that is from the local area and they have any damages to report, A, make sure that you're safe while reporting the damages first and foremost. And B, just make sure to get that to us because it's important that we're able to get the latest information, and it's very difficult to get breaking news, obviously, as a tropical cyclone is making landfall because everybody is inside, hunkered down, already, on an upper level of their building, underneath the mattress, in an interior room somewhere. So,
Uh,
not a lot of people will be venturing out during
mhm.
this.
One of our viewers actually is apparently from Vieira, Mozambique, and they're saying that the weather is getting worse every hour, and that they appreciate our coverage.
Yep. And it's unfortunate that that's happening. And yeah, and the weather's going to continue to get worse over the next few hours. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I will say if you guys do get it, when you guys get the strongest winds, if the winds all of a sudden just very suddenly sharply go down in strength and the skies kind of start clearing up, that is not the time to venture outside. That is, you will be in the eye of the cyclone. You will have to wait a little bit, stay indoors because the backside of the eye wall will be coming, and it's going to be just as strong as the winds that just pushed through.
Yeah, you must also keep that in effect as into mind as well. A lot of people with these that get hit by storms like this, Once the eye goes over them, they usually think the storm's over, but they usually get caught by surprise when the second part of the eye wall comes over, and that's, I believe, gonna looks like to be the case here. Like Devin said, if you get into the eye, you're probably gonna get maybe about a few minutes of calm, maybe 30 minutes. I don't know, about an hour of calm, depending on where you're located in, and you'll all of a sudden see a sharp increase in the wind. It'll increase again, and then it'll slowly start to gradually go away. And then once you believe it's safe and nothing's moving around, or if surge has subsided, you could then assess the damage.
And that sounds to be about right at this point. We do have other tropical cyclone activity going on right now. I'll just quickly go over all of that. We have tropical cyclone, a newly formed tropical cyclone. We have Cyclone Savannah. That is also in the Indian Ocean, though over in the eastern part of it, not the western. This storm is expected to primarily move to the south and then to the west, not really expected to affect land. And we also have Invest 95W, which is somewhere on here. And there you go, Invest 95W, just to show you what the tracks right now could possibly be. The storm's expected to move west towards Mindanao. However, the storm is not exactly expected to strengthen all that much. As you can see here, it's expected to stay a TD, maybe become a weak tropical storm for the most part. So this is just a system to keep an eye on for the next few days or so.
Indeed. But of course, the main focus right now is Vieira
Cyclone
as
it.
it makes a beeline. I mean Vieira,
Yeah,
Cyclone
Idai
Idai.
as it heads
Yeah,
towards Vieira. Yeah, and it's an unfortunate thing that's going on right now. Uh, you can see here. Here's the. I'll bring up a larger version of that in here. You can see here is the Mateo France cone for Cyclone Idai right now, and this was issued quite a bit ago, and you can see that 12-hour point is directly over Beira, as the storm is expected to pretty much move due west at this point. Maybe, oh, and it just refreshed on me. There we go. And you can see that it's expected to move pretty much due west from the point that it is right now. And that'll put the city of Pierre pretty much right in the crosshairs of this storm.
yeah. Like we've been stating here. Again, if any of you have any questions or are currently in Vieira and have any reports, please safely, I stress, send them to us if you can, if power's still on over there. Um, but all in all, this is just a dangerous system. If you have not yet prepared for this thing, it's pretty much too late at this point. All you could do is hunker down, and hopefully you'll get through it fine. Like Devin said, make sure you're away from the storm surge or at least up onto the second floor of your house that's structurally sound. Put blankets, pillows, anything to cover yourself on. Go into the innermost part of your house. Preferably maybe a closet or a bathroom that has no windows. That's the centermost part of your house. Hunker down in there. Put some pillows. I don't care. Put a mattress over you and protect yourself from this thing as it moves on along here. It's going to be a long night here for Vieira, I'm afraid,
Yep.
and surrounding areas.
At least the latest reports right now, Cyclone Vieira has killed at least 122 people total throughout its entire lifetime through Mozambique and Malawi, and more than 140,000 people have been displaced due to the storm's effects. And this thing is just coming ashore right now. So, latest 122 people have passed away due to this system.
And I'm afraid that that number is unfortunately likely to rise here as the system moves inland. I'm afraid it's been a really deadly system. I'm afraid.
Yep.
This part of the world, it's I worry to see the full death count on us after it's all said and done. But still a deadly system, not something to definitely take lightly. Even if it's weakening now, still not nothing to take lightly, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to find right now what is, the latest coming from this storm, and everything's just pretty much saying exactly what we're saying. We've got an equivalent to a category 3 coming ashore very shortly here, with winds exceeding 170 to 190 kilometers per hour. And it's expected to make landfall in Beira later on tonight.
Yeah, the sun's about about an hour ago, I would say an hour or two ago, went down over the city of Vieira. So I'm afraid this is also going to be a nighttime storm. It seems by the looks of it, where the eye will pass over during the nighttime. Um, so it's going to be the absolute worst. You won't be able to see anything really if you do get a lot of damage, I'm afraid. So, like we've been saying, just make sure you are where you are, stay where you are, and make sure it's a safe spot. Um, Make sure you're safe enough from the surge that you won't get affected by it, or your house or structure that you're staying in won't be affected by it. Preferably a concrete structure, if any, is the best option for riding out storms like this. And like we've been saying, surge wise, the surge we're forecasting, well, not forecasting, but the last I heard, they're forecasting, the officials over there are forecasting a 15 foot storm surge around about, and that's nearly about 5 meters, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Yep.
quite a significant storm surge amount funneling into the city of Vieira, I'm afraid, as well. Um, I don't know if Devin has any more thoughts here.
We're kind of repeating ourselves, but it's just worth stating how dangerous this storm is potentially going to be. Obviously, I believe this is the strongest storm to impact the region since Cyclone Leon Aline from 2000, if I remember correctly.
I
And
believe
it's
that's correct.
and obviously that was a very deadly cyclone in its own right, and I really don't want to jump to a comparison there. But the winds could definitely be comparable as the storm comes ashore.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's been, uh, like Devin said, the strongest storm to make landfall here in years. Um, this part of the basin doesn't get hit too often by cyclones, so
And
it's been quite a while.
it's a very difficult place in order to get hit by a cyclone because it's right in the Mozambique Channel. So you know, it's not exactly it's not a place where tropical cyclones develop because the circulation itself has to be very small. The circulation needs to be very small in order to fit in this channel, and cyclones tend to be a lot bigger than this. So when you see a system develop here, typically ends up staying rather weak and rather small, but there's a few that have blown up here, and well, this is unfortunately one of them.
Yeah, and like we've been saying, it's pretty much making landfall in pretty much the worst spot it could possibly make landfall. It's in a geography prone region, I'm afraid as well. So that doesn't lessen the impact in any nonetheless here. And again, they're forecasting a 15-foot storm surge, which is about around I think nearly 5 meters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Uh, so nothing to take lightly here. Again, if anybody in the chat has any questions or reports from uh, the cyclone itself or from the city of Vieira, uh, please send that to us safely. Somebody, oh, never mind, I read that wrong. Go ahead, Devin.
Yep. The again, just to repeat the latest information that I have, the system is continuing to move to the west, towards the province of Sofala, and the storm will make landfall in between the districts of Dondo and Vieira. This system is already influencing the weather in Zambezia, Sofala, Monica, Tete, and Inhambane, with very strong winds of 200 kilometers per hour and very heavy rains. Rainfall rates, I mean, we've seen rainfall, I've seen rainfall reports already over 6 inches of rain, uh, which is a lot to say the least. Um, but we have 6 inches of rain so far, and this is only going to get larger as this continues to go on. So we're talking already 150 millimeters of rain. We could see totals up to 500 millimeters of rain in the landfall area once we're said and done, and potentially rainfall going near or above 750 millimeters of rain along the Zimbabwe Mozambique border as the storm moves inland.
Okay.
So, catastrophic flooding is going to end up occurring. Obviously, in the more mountainous regions of this area, you're going to have to worry about mudslides and, just obviously if you see flooding, don't try to go through it. If you can avoid it, do that. If you're driving along, you see a flooded roadway, don't attempt to drive your car through it. Um, yeah, just try to stay out of the floodwaters the best you can during this system.
Indeed. Um, if we go to my screen, say here, I put up a little bit of a
Yep.
closer look here, so you can see
Yep.
the eye of the system
Let
itself
me
here.
let me transition over for a second.
All
All
right.
right, you're up.
Okay, here you can see the eye of the cyclone itself here. Cyclone Idai, the city of Vieira. Let me fix this for a second here. The city of Vieira is right about here, and in the last two frames, it looks like it's making a slight northward jog. I believe it looks like here,
Yep.
um, and that may be good in terms of wind wise, but in terms of storm surge wise, it'll not really help at all, really, because the surge has nowhere to go except funnel into this basin here,
Yep.
over into Vieira, and the cities are surrounding it. But here you can see the eye wall getting gradually and gradually closer towards land here. This imagery is about, I think, 30 to 40 minutes old, so the eye wall could be just barely making it onto the beach here, the coastline here. Um, but just wanted to note that as well. And then over on this imagery, this one's about, I think 3 hours old, but you can see the full look of the CDO of the system. See if I can pull up sea surface temperatures here really quick, so I can show you the sea surface temperatures, where the system is generally located in. You can see sea surface temperatures about, see what that is in Celsius. That is about 29 degrees Celsius waters that it's heading into. So as this thing makes landfall, it's going to be in a little bit of a warmer environment. So it has a chance of maintaining strength probably up until landfall. I'm afraid here. I don't think it'll strengthen anymore. I just believe it'll probably just maintain its intensity here. Um, as it treks along towards the city of Vieira, let's go over towards the water vapor here. The water vapor says, yeah, again, even though a
No.
weakening system, still strong.
Yep.
Go ahead,
No
Devin.
noticeable dry channels getting into the storm.
Wow.
So That's usually what happens is that you end up having this when you have a storm that ends up going annular like this, it ends up being very, very resistant to change. And you can just see that right here as the storm continues to get perilously closer to the coast. That this storm is just uh, it does not appear that it's going to be weakening much more than it already has. Again, the storm is a Category 3 equivalent as it continues to move westward. It could be moving a little bit to the north of westward now, which would cut down its landfall time significantly because that part of the eye is just barely off the shore right now. Um, but it's still it whether if it makes landfall in an hour or makes landfall in 4 hours, it really doesn't matter because the storm's still going to be bringing all of that rain, all of that wind, and all that surge into Vieira and into the province surrounding it, the Sofala province around it. So it's very important that everyone had already gotten through their precautionary measures here.
Indeed. Um, but yeah, as you could see in the satellite imagery, it's I'm afraid it does not seem to be weakening. It seems to be maintaining strength, as you can see with this last burst of convection over towards the northeast, not northeast, the north what, well about north quadrant of the system here, and it's just been maintaining intensity here. So even if it's weakening, like we've been saying, big impacts for the city of Vieira and the surrounding regions. I don't know the name of the cities over here in the Sonora region because I don't know my geography that well over here, but I do know the
Yep.
city of Vieira is just down to the south, and there's some cities north of it that
From
are not as populated as Vieira, but still on the fire line. Go
yeah,
ahead, Devin.
from what I understand, that part of the coastline is relatively unpopulated.
Mm. I heard
They
that there was. Go ahead.
no, I didn't have anything else to say.
Oh, I heard that there was a city with a population of about 15,000 somewhere around this general region. I believe Nathan said it last night's stream. I completely forgot about the name of it, but there is some smaller, albeit smaller, population centers that might be in a fire line of this thing, even if it does appear to be moving on a slightly northward jog, which would spare Vieira, I would say, slightly from the winds, but not from the storm surge in any means at all. It'll, in fact, make it funnel more into Vieira, if I'm not mistaken here, um, over the next coming hours. Um, so, a pretty dangerous system here, really dangerous
Yep.
system here.
Someone in the chat just asked if the storm is going to dissipate before getting to Botswana. The storm should definitely not be getting to Botswana at all. Botswana should be pretty much uh, effect free from this storm. Botswana is very far inland, and it's this storm's not expected to get much further inland than the Chimanimani National Park and the Zimbabwe Mozambique border. It's not going to get too much further inland than that. So Botswana should be relatively scot free from this storm.
Mm. One of our viewers has stated that who's in Vieira, the city of Vieira, they say that they're currently out of power. They cut it down, and the winds have increased extremely, and the rain has also increased extremely over the past few hours here. And people have been saying that the conditions are just sadly going downhill here as the storm starts to make landfall. Um,
And we can only hope that everyone is in an appropriate place, that they're going to be able to ride out this system as it continues to move ever so closer to um, the Mozambique coastline and Vieira here, because this thing is it's not exactly moving very fast. It's only moving at around 9-10 miles an hour, which really isn't fast. We're talking like 15-16 kilometers per hour. So It's not a very fast movement at all, and this storm is it's just going to dump a lot of rain over the area, and obviously over an area that does not need any more rain because it already got a ton of it from the precursor from this system. So I'm just hoping that everyone was able to prepare for this storm and was able and the people that were able to get out of the way of the storm was able to get out of the way.
Indeed. And if you're just joining now, dangerous cyclone, uh, preparing to make landfall here, Cyclone Idai. Um, if any of you are watching from the city of Bay Area or surrounding regions and are still able to hear us, make sure you have taken shelter in a really sturdy shelter, preferably concrete, that is away from the storm surge or at least above ground by at least on the second floor. Um, Make sure you have blankets, pillows, heck, put even a mattress over you to protect you just in case the roof goes flying off from the debris flying around the area if the winds start to get really bad. Storm surge is also going to be a big threat, like we've been saying. Last I heard, about a day ago, they're forecasting storm surge of about 15 feet, which is about nearly 5 meters, if I have my conversions correct here. Um, so, nonetheless, a big threat for Mozambique and Beira, especially the city of Beira and north of there. Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, I was just able to look at a video that shows the current conditions in Vieira right now, and uh, the waves are very high, and the storm surge is starting to come up. It's very noticeable that the storm surge is starting to come up in Vieira. Um, just hoping that there's a little bit of a seawall that I saw there. So I'm hoping that's able to protect the city at least a little bit. But we'll see. Hopefully the water stays out of the city.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see. Don't have any questions, I believe.
You know, someone asked if we have a camera in Mozambique. No, we do not. We don't. I was looking for cameras. I was looking for radar. Unfortunately, this is just not an area that has the radar or a camera available. Um,
Been trying to find.
oh, that's
Excuse
great.
me.
That's
I've been.
that's fantastic.
Excuse me. I've been trying to find um, radar, but there's no radar, to my knowledge, in the entire country of Mozambique. Um, and webcams, I have not successfully been able to locate any webcams in the general region of the cyclone. If I have, they're generally away from the cyclone, so not really anything interesting to really look at. Um,
Right.
but yeah.
So that's the current scenario right now. Of course, it's very annoying that the satellite images that are about an hour out of date, but that's unfortunately the best that we have to look at. One thing that should be noted is that over the past few hours, the eye has actually been warming up, and you can see that convection is starting to come back up again here on the southeastern side of the system. So there's maybe even a chance that it might be strengthening a little bit right before landfall, which is obviously not good news. Hopefully, that is only just a temporary flare up and that does not sustain. We do not need this storm strengthening until landfall. But you can definitely see a burst of convection here, at least from 1 hour ago, on the southeastern side of the storm, and you can also see how the eye, you can see it having the light gray on there, and then suddenly the gray becomes a lot darker. And that's signaling that the eye is starting to clear out once again. So you'll see the same thing here on the Dvorak imagery. And you can see there's the convection building up on the southeastern side of the storm. You can see the whites along with the blacks really starting to pop back up again. And you can also see here there's no whites in the eye, and then boom, you can start to see them coming back out. So again, hopefully this is just a cycling trend and this storm doesn't start blowing back up, but definitely some convection is starting to come back up here on the eastern side of this storm.
One of our viewers asked when the storm was going to make landfall. Um,
It's it's very difficult to tell, mainly because of the angle of the coastline. Uh,
yeah,
any any jog to the north is going to cut down the landfall time in half easily. It should be noted that the eye wall, at least on the northwestern side of the storm, is already on shore. So the worst of the winds is already on shore. When the actual center of the storm ends up making landfall, that can happen anywhere between in around 2.5 to 3 hours to all the way up to 6 hours if it ends up moving, or maybe even longer than 6 hours if it ends up continuing due west directly towards Beira. So it's very difficult to tell when the exact landfall position, the exact landfall time is going to be because of we've got this diagonal coastline here and the storm is moving due west. Any jog north, it's going to cut the landfall time right in half. So I'm not really focusing in on a landfall time here because it's kind of almost irrelevant because the strongest winds of the storm are already on shore right now. They're not on shore in Beira yet, but they're on shore at least to the north and east of Beira right now. So that's what's going on. Someone asked, is there a high rain threat to Zimbabwe? Yes, there is. At least in the Chimanimani National Park, that's where the highest rainfall is expected to happen. Over in and around, I think it was Junction Park and Chimanimani. Um, that's right where the highest rainfall is expected to be around 750 millimeters plus of rainfall in that region.
yeah. Um, if we go into my screens really quickly, I'm having the
Yep.
DWC count
Yep.
right now. Um, this one is as of, let's see here. This is warning number, I think, 20 or 22.
22.
Yeah, 22. They have it at 100 knots, I think, there. And they have the forecast landfall just a tad north of the city of Vieira, as you can see there.
Look at
I don't
that.
know what the made of France
It's
exactly say
the
the landfall is.
it's the exact same.
Really?
Seriously,
Oh,
it's pretty much the exact same.
wow. So they're calling for the JTBC, at least they're calling for a landfall just a tad north of Vieira, but still major storm surge impact, especially with the water piling up onto the funneling into the coast here rather. And again, forecasting last I heard a 15-foot storm surge, which is about nearly 5 meters of storm surge.
Yep.
And just a dangerous all around system. Then we go back to
And
the
it should,
satellite imagery
if you
here.
can go back to that cone, please,
Okay.
because I want to keep it on there because I also want to note how far the effects are reaching because you can see there's the pink region is where the very strongest of the winds will be, and the outside red region, that's where the tropical storm force winds are going to be. But the very strongest of the winds seems like if the storm ends up making this track, could extend as far south as Nova Sofala. Uh, Then you have the severe winds. That seems to be extending as far south as Chiloane. I believe that's how that's pronounced. And then you have the tropical storm force winds, which can extend as far south as Inhasoro. As far as to the north, uh, Dondo seems to be within the very severe winds of this. I believe Mafambisi, I believe that's how that's pronounced. I'm sorry if I'm not getting the pronunciation of these cities correctly, but Mafambise seems to be just on the outside of the very severe winds on this. As far as going to the north and east here, to see where the tropical storm force winds end up extending as far out as, at least at the landfall point, that seems to be extending as far out as the Maromeo National Reserve. Um, so there you go. So that's the extent of the effects of the storm at landfall. So all those places that I just listed, they're going to be getting significant effects, and all places in between are going to be getting significant effects from this storm as the storm's coming in. So just goes to show you it's very important to not just focus directly on where the center is going. Obviously, the center's got the strongest winds, but there's those other places that are going to be affected as well.
Indeed, that is certainly the case here. Yeah, even if this thing makes landfall to the north, which would probably put the winds slightly away, the strongest winds probably slightly away from the city of Vieira, you'll still have some funneling of the ocean water here, the storm surge, into that basin. I'm sure that's not going to be a good thing to see there. Um, you can see the IR here. This one is about, that's about 2 hours old. I want to say 2, 3 hours old. Let me go over to the latest IR here really quick. You can see the eye wall certainly is not weakening for the time being.
Nope.
Certainly maintaining strength here,
And
as it's
potentially
making landfall.
strengthening on the southeastern side, as I showed.
Wow, like right around the central region here.
Yeah.
Wow. Um,
So
yeah, I've certainly. Right.
fingers crossed. Like I said, that's just a cycling thing, and that isn't a trend.
Yeah, I have noticed that the convection. Sorry, my voice is going dying out on me here. The convection has. Let me get some water here. Hold on.
And
Apologize, my voice has not been the best. But you can see that the convection has been firing around the eye wall here on the past two frames, which is certainly not good. Go ahead, Devin.
yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say. I'm going to go back to my loop here. And you can see right here on the Dvorak loop that the cloud tops seem to be dying down there, and then right around the eye, the cloud tops are firing right back up. So again, it could be just a cycling thing. Hopefully, hopefully it is, because we do not need this storm strengthening anymore than it already has. Um, Obviously, we don't need this storm strengthening any more than it already has.
I'm not seeing any. Hmm. Yeah, I don't believe I'm seeing any questions here.
Yeah.
Again, if anybody in the chat has any reports or is in the city of Vieira and can safely, I stress safely, report the conditions currently in the city or around the general region of where the cyclone will make landfall, please let us know in the chat here as we stay on here for a little bit longer.
Yep.
Uh,
And it's very important to understand that, because um this storm is the latest images that we have of this storm are at best 30 minutes out of date. The images that I'm looking at of this storm are an hour out of date. And that's an unfortunate product of, it's got to go through like 5 or 6 sources before it ends up actually coming out somewhere. and here I'm using RAM. And if I wanted to have up to date images, I think that Meteosat has a paid for service that you can subscribe to, and that'll give you as up to date as the latest image that you can possibly get. Um, I don't know if that's a I don't know how much that is,
Uh,
but I'm pretty sure that service exists.
yeah, I don't
Um,
know either, but I know that the maximum amount of time we could get images from this area from Metalstat is about 50 every an image every 15 minutes, give or take,
yep,
and
and
add on to that the delay there.
15 minutes would be great, honestly, compared to an hour. And you can see images are coming in every 15 minutes. It's just that they're coming in an hour late.
Yeah, that all has to do with the way it's being processed and etc. I'm afraid you have to pay for those 15-minute imagery. I don't know about 30 minutes. So I want to say it's probably about the same, but hourly, I believe we don't have to pay for it at all. But that's an unfortunate thing going um, on Meadowsat, and hopefully they improve the
Well,
satellites over the
they
years.
are
Yeah,
they are supposed to launch that satellite. I think in 2020 that'll be getting it on par with. They're going to be using that money that they're taking from their paid for service now, and they're investing it into their new satellite, which is going to be right in line with GOES and Himawari. So
yeah,
thumbs up there.
indeed. But yeah, about 15-minute imagery from that satellite. There's other satellites in the area, but they only provide about 30-minute imagery, and theirs is also delayed, of course, and theirs is not as
Yep.
high resolution as
And
Metalsat.
they're even worse than Meteosat. So you don't Meteosat's the best that we got for this region, and that'll be that. Someone made a comment that this storm kind of looks similar to Isabel. I mean, if you said that yesterday, I probably would have agreed with you, but this storm is definitely weakened quite a bit from yesterday. And maybe I can get on here a. Oh, I could get on here a 24-hour clip just to show you exactly what this storm has looked like over the past 24 hours. So
All
I'll get
right,
that.
and as you're doing that, someone in the chat has said that the Beira airport recorded a pressure of 996 about 2 hours ago, according to them, and also they recorded a wind gust of 60 miles an hour about 2 hours ago. And I'm assuming that the site is either down or hasn't checked it in that time frame. So just wanted to share that information out there that it's being passed on.
Yep. So there you go. Here's a 24-hour loop of Cyclone Biera, and you can Cyclone Idai. Now I'm making that mistake. Cyclone Idai, last 24 hours. You can see that the convection has definitely diminished from yesterday. But it's been trying to get some of that convection back there in the latest frames. Thank goodness that this storm has weakened quite a bit. And hopefully that convection doesn't end up firing back up and we end up having a storm that stays at its current intensity rather than intensifies as it comes ashore.
Yeah. So another person asked in the chat, what are the likely effects in eastern Zimbabwe? Sorry about
The
that. And
Mutar,
Mutare,
yep,
area.
I will look that up right now. All right, so the Mutar region, it looks like that you guys are going to be probably to the north. You guys are going to be a little bit to the north of the extreme rainfall that is going to be happening in Chimanimani. So Mutar won't be getting the extreme 750 millimeters of rain, but you guys should definitely be preparing for at least 300 millimeters of rain from this system. And of course, any kind of rain like that can produce severe flooding and mudslides within the region. So I would not be expecting any sort of wind impacts from this storm at that point in time, because the storm should weaken very quickly as it moves ashore.
Hopefully so. Um,
But yeah, the Mutare region or Muter, however it's pronounced, Um, that should get around 300 millimeters of rain from what I'm seeing.
All right. So there you go. Um, yeah, like we've been saying, a major threat to the city of Vieira. We're gonna look at the satellite imagery again and see if it's updated a bit more. Likely has. And I'll be able to tell you whether or not it's maintaining or. Oh yeah, it's definitely maintaining strength here.
Yep,
Um,
it's at least maintaining strength.
Yeah, it looks like on the western side, the convection has decreased, and there's a little bit of a hole in between uh, to the southwest part of the CDL. But other than that, the storm's doing pretty good right now. Like we've been saying the past few minutes here, pretty much maintaining strength, I'm afraid, um, as it makes landfall. Looks like don't know exactly where. Probably maybe just north, just barely north of Vieira. I want to say, but we still have 3 hours to go. Whether or not it decides to keep that kind of northward jog we were suggesting, or it's just like a temporary wobble and it heads back onto the south. I went to the south to the west here over the next coming hours.
Alrighty. Uh, this is where I think I will repeat. I'm gonna see if there's any new information out of Mateosat. I mean, out of Mateo, France. I would imagine that there is at this point.
All right,
As
he's
I
doing
try
good.
to, yep,
We're drawing to the next hour here. Um, I don't know how long we're gonna be on here, but uh, so we're gonna be 60. Whoa, mic was kind of loud there. Again, I'll rephrase as he's doing it. I'll go ahead and restate what's been going on here. They're forecasting. Last I heard, their forecasts of a 15-foot storm surge, which is nearly about 5 meters or so.
four and a half.
Expected to make landfall, I believe, as a Category 3 cyclone in the hurricane scale. I don't know what that would be in the scale that the South Indian uses, but
That would be
that
intense tropical cyclone.
an intense tropical cyclone, yeah. Um, and certainly it's going to make landfall here. And I'll let Devin take over here and
Yeah,
talk about.
no, I didn't. I didn't see. I don't have any brand new information. So the best thing that I've got is that the storm is still has a pressure of 955 millibars, continues to be a Category 3 equivalent on the Saffir-Simpson scale. The system continues towards the west, maybe jogging to the north a little bit, but still expected to make landfall between the districts of Dondo and Vieira. The system is influencing the weather in Zambeza, Sofala, Monica, Tete, and Inhambane with very strong winds in excess of 200 kilometers per hour and very strong rains already in excess of 150 millimeters and expected to be in excess of 500 millimeters in the landfall area. The meteorological service in Mozambique. INAM forecasts the continuation of moderate to strong rains accompanied with severe thunderstorms and gusty winds north of the provinces of Niassa, Cabo Delgado, and Tete. Please take precautionary and safety measures due to the risk of associated heavy rains, thunderstorms, and winds. Obviously, those precautionary measures need to already be taken at this point in time. The storm's pretty much right now on everyone's back door.
Indeed, and if you haven't done any necessary preparations, it's too late to. At this point in time, all you can do now is hunker down where you are, hopefully in a sturdy shelter, away from the storm surge. Make sure you have blankets, pillows, mattress. Even put a mattress if you can over you, so just in case the roof flies off, you don't get hit or pounded by any debris that fly down. Um, and make sure you're also away from the storm surge as well. Storm surge, like we've been saying, is forecast to be about 15 feet, which is about nearly 5 meters or so. Um, and I'm afraid that's going to be likely the scenario going on in Beira, even if the storm does not make a direct landfall over the city. Um, Certainly, the surrounding areas will also get major impacts to, or areas to the north of Beira will get major impact as well currently. Um, and the storm, I'm afraid, already has been a deadly system, as we've stated. It's killed over 100 last I checked. I don't know the exact number, but I've heard it killed over 100.
122 from the latest reports.
Oh, geez. Wow.
122 left dead from in Mozambique and Malawi, and that's including the precursor to this system.
Yeah, if you don't remember, this storm pretty much stalled right over, not really stalled, but kind of just meandered around, I should say, Juan de Nova Island for about 3 days straight and decided to get its move on about yesterday or so. And now it's making a landfall here soon, or right about now, actually, as we speak. Um,
Well, not
the Iowa, at
necessarily.
least.
Well, not necessarily a landfall, but at least
Yeah, the Iowa, at least. Yeah.
the eye wall is either coming ashore or is just offshore, and it's going to continue to be that way for the next few hours at least.
Yeah. Certainly a terrible night ahead for the people of Vieira and the cities north of there. Um, over the next coming hours here. Again, if anybody in the chat has any reports or information they can relay, either from Vieira or surrounding regions, and you could safely, I stress safely, do it. Make sure you send it in the chat here so you can get more information and spread it around to everybody else who may be affected by the storm as well. Um,
Oh yeah, that doesn't work.
let's see here. Shear, shear's not really an issue at this point in time.
Nope.
Last I checked, it does not appear to be an issue. Look at the structure at all, really. Um, Sea surface temperature is not an issue right now.
Dry air is
Uh,
not an issue because the storm still has that annular structure. And I'll tell you what, Isaac, right now, it does look like the storm is maybe getting its act together and maybe giving it one last strengthening run before coming ashore here because the convection is definitely getting stronger. You can see, at least from what I'm sharing right now, the last 4 or 5 frames or so, the convection is really starting to get taller going around the eye wall, and the eye itself is also clearing out a bit. So it does appear that maybe the storm is maybe going to get its act together. You showed that image earlier that the sea surface temperatures are actually warmer right up against the coast,
I'll pull that up
and
again really quick.
potentially that could be enough fuel to bump up the storm another 5 to 10 miles per hour or so if it really wanted to, and it looks like it does want to because the taller cloud tops seem to be coming back around the eye.
Yeah, the sea surface temperatures are about 29 degrees Celsius, right about where it's making landfall currently. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's still maintaining or perhaps maybe slightly strengthening. I wouldn't know if I would say that, but certainly maintaining. Let me go ahead and pull up the sea surface temperatures here really quick
As
on my
someone
screen.
just someone just asked, what time can how long will Biera last in the region? This storm is at least going to be it's going to be producing rainfall in the landfall area for at least the next 1.5 to 2 days, and then add on another 2 days after that for the Chimanimani region in Mozambique on the Mozambique Zimbabwe border. So we're talking 3.5 to 4 days total that this storm is still going to be around.
Viewer in the chat said that they're in the area and they're getting winds close to 100 kilometers an hour currently,
Very
and that the
strong.
power is almost cut out to the entire city.
Alrighty. So,
Um,
100 kilometers per hour, that would be 62 miles an hour. So, uh, and again, this satellite is out of date, but you can see here that that eye wall is starting to really get close to Vieira here. Um, and with this image being out of date, I think by an hour and 15 minutes by this point, um, obviously the storm's going to be even closer than that. So, yeah, I can the conditions are really going to start rapidly deteriorating for Vieira here.
and I now have the seashore temperatures now on my screens here. We can pull it up. And I just pulled it up. I'll just describe it.
Yeah,
Seashore
I'll pull it up
temperatures.
right now.
Seashore temperatures about 29 degrees Celsius here, right around the general region where the storm is making landfall, which is right about where my cursor's at. Generally, where the
Oh,
system's currently at.
and
Uh,
that right there you can see that the just the warmer temperatures on the surface uh could is potentially just the fuel that the storm needs to be able to maintain or maybe even strengthen a few miles an hour as it comes ashore, which is absolutely not what we want to see here out of this system. Um, it we obviously do not want this storm to get any stronger as it continues to move closer here to Piera. You know, this isn't like the United States. They're the only we're the only country anymore that flies planes into tropical cyclones. So it's not like we have any planes in this cyclone constantly monitoring this, and we're seeing, what the pressure is. So everything is pretty much pure speculation outside of the reports that are shown to us from the ground. So, I mean, this thing obviously, at least from satellite appearance, still a category 3, maybe starting to get its act together a little bit more. And this scenario, which we really didn't want to have it be any worse, seems to be getting slightly more nightmarish by this recent convection blow up. So hopefully again, this is just a cycling thing, or this convection just ends up dying in a few hours. But obviously, we won't know if it is for another few hours.
yeah. One of our viewers is asking if there's a possibility of flooding near the sea, near the shore. They don't specify where they're
Absolute.
located.
Well, I'm going to assume uh Biera. Let me see here.
Well, certainly, there's no
At
going to be.
least Sudipt Kumar, he's already asked at Biera, so I'm gonna assume he is in the city right now. And well, the the storm surge, which is how high the water is going to get above normal tide, is expected to be around 4.5 to 5 meters. So you need to be expecting a tide that is going to be around 5 meters above what it usually is. And obviously, that's going to cause all sorts of coastal flooding. Beira is a very low lying city, from what I understand, right on the mouth of a river delta. Two rivers come together right to the west of the city. So it's it's very imperative to understand here that uh, the storm surge is going to be coming in here, and it's going to be roughly 4.5 to 5 meters above what the normal tide would be. So, absolutely, yeah, there will be coastal flooding. I don't know how significant that flooding will be, but there will definitely be coastal flooding due to this system.
Certainly. even if there's no coastal flooding, storm surge will be there anyway. Um, let's see here. I'm not seeing any new information as of now in the chat. Um, I'm worried for I don't know how to say that restaurant, the Lighthouse Club Nautica. Any news in the chat? I don't know exactly where that's at. I'm afraid. Uh, I'm assuming that's in Beira, and if so, power is likely out, as we've been hearing from people around the general area, and winds are starting to gradually increase here. Um, so, assuming that you're in Beira, it's probably going to get worse from here, um, I'm afraid. And hopefully, anybody in that restaurant has taken the necessary precautions. Hopefully, they're not near the ocean, because if they were, the storm surge would be a really big issue. So make sure that they're safe as well. Um,
I'm just looking on. I'm just looking on Twitter right now to see if there's anything new, and I see a lot of people saying that Cyclone Idai is about to make landfall in Zimbabwe, which obviously that's not correct. The country on the coast is Mozambique, but that doesn't mean that Zimbabwe's not going to receive very heavy rains from this storm, because Zimbabwe definitely will. But yeah, that's what most of these posts are saying. They're all talking about the effects in the potential effects in Zimbabwe when it's about to make landfall in Mozambique. So that's
another
just an interesting thing that I saw.
another person said well, actually, one of the people that's been in the chat here. He lives in Vieira, and he says, is it expected to get worse? When to expect the slowdown of winds?
It is definitely going to get worse from what it's going on right now. Um, it's not 100% certain if Vieira is going to receive the eye. If it does receive the eye, you're probably going to receive the eye in, I would imagine, or somewhere in the region of another 6 hours. Um, if you see a sudden slowdown in winds, that is the eye coming through. That's not the end of the storm. That's just the eye coming through. And you need to stay in your shelter while that's going out. Don't go outside to assess the damage or anything, because you can end up being trapped in the other side of the storm once it starts coming through. And the winds will be very strong in that as well. The winds in Vieira will probably start to die down. I would imagine should be died down completely by this time tomorrow. Um, but through tonight, overnight, and through tomorrow morning, I imagine the winds will remain pretty high. But tonight and overnight, especially, will be when the winds are the highest.
Definitely. And if we have not taken shelter already, um, please go to like the nearest place, take shelter, make sure uh, you have everything ready. Just make sure you have pillows, blankets, anything to cover yourself if the roof just flies off or windows break or anything of that nature. Just make sure you're ready, just in case if your structure failed. Um, because this is still quite powerful storm. Believe it's a 100 knot system, I believe, currently right now, Devin, or is it
That's
weaker?
that's what I would that's what I would just go with right now is 100 knots.
Yeah, so about 100 knots. Don't know what that would be in kilometers. I think 190.
That would be 190.
Yeah, about 190 kilometers an hour. storm as it's making landfall here, and could potentially be maybe slightly strengthening. We've been noting in the last few satellite images here, at least maintaining strength at the very least here, uh, as Devin's showing his screen there.
Yep. And one of the things that I can show you here is that the frame just jumped about 45 minutes ahead. The frames just jumped 45 minutes ahead. So now the image that we're looking at is only 45 minutes old here. And you can really see now that uh, you can see that there's not barely any reds, not a lot of green, and then boom, there's a lot of red surrounding the eye. So it can definitely be said that this storm uh, is is at least trying to strengthen a little bit as it's coming ashore. That's been a trend that's been observed for about 2 hours now, and if this continues, we might have to bump up the wind estimate from 100 knots here. But 100 knots for right now is a fair estimate.
I would say so. Another person who uh, lives in Maputo uh, is also wondering. I think he's asking how it'll affect him in Maputo. I believe that's how you say it.
Maputo. Let me take a look. Would this site stop giving me 500 errors? All right.
Uh,
I'm in Maputo. Um, I will tell you that I cannot guarantee that everything will be okay from this storm, no matter where you are, if you're being affected by it. Let me take a look and see where Maputo is. Maputo is in the very, very south region of Mozambique. Uh, you shouldn't get any effects from this storm other than maybe some rip currents. But other than that, Maputo should be 100% perfectly okay from this storm. It's well to the south of it. But Beira, I mean, it's right in the bullseye, and I really can't guarantee anybody's safety that is in the direct path of this storm. I could just hope that everybody took the correct precautionary measures, and just hope that everyone's okay. But I definitely cannot. Anybody that's in the middle of this storm, it is it's a very dangerous situation.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm looking at the last two frames here, and wow, the eye wall is pretty much
Yep,
once we're here. If we could go to my screen, I have a
I'll
image of the system here.
bring it up here. Just give me 3 seconds. I'll tell you when you're on.
All right.
All right, you're on.
All right, here you can see this is the latest frame. This one's from about 20 minutes ago, actually. Yeah, this is about 20 minutes ago, so this is fairly recent.
Oh,
Um, you can see here's the edge of the eye wall here, slowly making its approach here. It
yep,
does look indeed it might be making that northward jog that we are suggesting. So the big area might be a tad out of the eye here. They may graze the outer part of the eye. I would say maybe, but I would say it's probably too close for certain to say so. Um, but right here you can see the edge of the eye about to reach the coastline here in these smaller cities. I believe there's some smaller cities here um, above Vieira to the north of it. So if you're in these Philippine cities, you might be about to experience the calm here, maybe an hour or so from now, looking at the IR here. But this is about 20 minutes old, and I just wanted to share that. Go ahead, Devin.
all right. So somebody just asked, some people have moved to Chimoyo. What do you advise? Well, the people that have moved to Chimoyo, that is basically due west, a little bit north of due west. So that area, you're likely going to be out of the very strong winds in that area. But that's still an area that is going to be affected by the cyclone, and it's still going to produce some very heavy rains in that area. Um, I would just advise if you are in Chamoyo right now to be alert for very heavy rainfall, be alert for flooding and mudslides as the storm moves inland. That's the best thing that I can tell you there. Uh,
Indeed.
South Africa, I mean that's well out of the reach of this storm. Well out of the reach. South Africa should be again, other than coastal rip current, should be completely unaffected by this storm. Someone said that I think people of Beira should move to another city. I will say that at this point, it is too late to evacuate out of the city. If you are planning on evacuating out of Beira, it is definitely too late to be doing that. The winds are too strong and too fast at this point in time to be attempting to travel out of the city. You really need to be indoors at this point in time.
Indeed, just stay where you are. Make sure you're in the innermost part of wherever you're staying in. Centermost part. If you're near the coast, preferably probably be on the second floor if there is a second floor. If there's any mattress or furniture, put them on top over you. So if the roof decides to fly off or the windows start breaking, you'll be at least protected from the debris somewhat as the storm passes. And during the calm, don't let that fool you. There's gonna likely gonna be a calm in the eye. You'll get that for maybe about an hour
Yep.
or so. I don't know exactly how long, depending on where you are. I don't know it'll be different or it'll be longer. Um,
just just let me come on here. Someone said that no concern for strong winds in Chimolo. You guys will likely be receiving gusts of up to 120 kilometers per hour. So you guys will definitely be receiving some strong winds in the area, but your primary concern is going to be the flooding rains and the mudslides. Just because the storm is going to move inland and weaken rapidly doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be completely out of the clear of the strong winds, but the strong winds are probably going to be less of a concern. So I just wanted to make sure that that got said there.
Indeed. I'm just trying to look at microwave here because I just wanted to see how the structure's doing. Um, Again, if you have anybody in the chat has any updates or information that I could pass along from B area or surrounding regions to the north of it or around, please let us know, and please do it safely. I stress as well too. Don't go out in the middle of the storm to get reception. Wait till the tire threat is passed. Um, see here.
Man,
Uh,
I can't believe that the convection blew up like that a little bit. I was hoping for that to not happen, but clearly the storm's using the warm sea surface temperatures right up against the land to pull it off.
Certainly,
That
those.
is,
Yeah. Okay, I have some
I
microwave imagery up on my screen. Oh, go ahead.
yep, I will show that real quick.
All right.
Just let me get over there. Boom, you're on.
All right. Somebody was saying in the chat that they may be. Somebody was saying that there's an eyewall placement cycle going on. Do you think that's the case here? Haven't looked at the
Oh,
microwave.
that's what I'm seeing there very clearly. You can see the inner eye wall dissipating and then an outer eye wall starting to take place. And that outer eye wall is starting to get a little stronger. So yeah, if an eye wall replacement cycle is taking place as well, that's really, really not good news at all. No, it's no, that's a pretty textbook eye wall replacement right there. And that's really scary because with it with it undergoing an eye wall replacement so close to land, usually storms end up rebounding in intensity right after they do their eye wall replacement cycle. So this storm, as it continues to approach land, it's looking even more likely now that it might even regain some intensity as it continues to move closer to a landfall.
Wow. Yeah, it's
But yeah,
certainly
that
not good.
that does look like an eye wall replacement. Man,
All right.
hard to say that that isn't.
Yeah, I get to see it. It's oh, that's not good at all. Not good at all. Uh, wow. But yeah, there's your
Latest
question
frames.
in the chat answered. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask. We'll be here for however long, and we'll be continuing to provide coverage and information when we get it of the system. Uh, so yeah, I will look to see if there's another updated image, and let's see what I make of that. But anybody who may be just joining, we have 61 viewers now. Anybody who may be just joining, if you're in Biera and you're planning on leaving or planning on going somewhere else for shelter, it's pretty much too late to right now. Winds we've heard are about 60 miles an hour. I don't know without being kilometers an hour. I want to say 30 or 40
100.
kilometers an hour.
100
Huh?
kilometers an hour. 100
100
kilometers an
kilometers an
hour.
hour.
Yep.
Oh, 100 kilometers. Well, okay. I was way off. Um, so winds are about there, and they're going to start even decreasing even more. So at this point, it's pretty much like not even an option to go anywhere else. Just stay where you are, hopefully away from the surge. Get to the probably the second floor or the highest point you can. Put some pillows, blankets, anything to cover yourself if the roof goes off or the windows start breaking. Um, and just stay safe because this is going to be, like we've been saying, a major storm surge threat. They're forecasting a surge of about 4 to 5 meters, which is about 15 feet tall. And that's not going to be any good, especially because it's going to be falling into the city of Vieira because of the way the cyclone is. And as we also mentioned, it appears to be going under an eye wall placement cycle pretty much right at landfall to make things even worse. So certainly a bad situation here for the city of Vieira and places north of it.
And what an eye wall replacement cycle right at landfall means is that typically what happens during an eye wall replacement is that a storm will be pretty strong, like you saw this yesterday, and then it'll start losing its structure. And what happens when it starts losing its structure is that it ends up building up two concentric eye walls. So instead of one eye wall, it has two of them. And what'll happen there is that the storm will gradually weaken during that time as the eye wall that's closest to the eye actually ends up decreasing its winds. And then you have the larger outer eye wall. That what happens with that one is that one ends up shrinking a little bit. And as anybody that has ever ice skated would know, as you pull your arms inward, you end up spinning faster. Well, it's the same thing with the winds here in the hurricane, as that outer eye wall ends up shrinking to take the place of the inner eye wall. That ends up spinning the winds up faster. That ends up blowing up the convection. And what that ends up doing is that ends up strengthening the storm once it comes off the eye wall replacement cycle. Um, so what, and you can clearly see it here on not necessarily the eye wall replacement, but you can clearly see the at least the effects of coming off the eye wall replacement cycle is right here on the satellite imagery, because you can see that the convection is really starting to build up here on the southeastern side, the eastern and southeastern side. I'll stop it right here at the end, and you can see here that we have a lot of white here and a lot of a dark grays that have started to show up, and those are very very tall thunderstorms compared to everything else here. I'll even go to this because this is even easier to read. you can see here,
Oh,
zooming in, uh, you can see here zooming in that um, you can see all these reds that were here. Now, these reds weren't here earlier on when we started this stream. They were barely there, but now all these reds are present, and they're very much taller than the greens, the blues, or the aquas or the whites. The reds are very, very tall, very, very strong cloud tops, and the system appears to be uh, gaining strength as it approaches shore and finishes its eye wall replacement cycle within the warmer sea surface temperatures that are at hand. So basically, what's going on here is that the end effect is that the storm is going to be slightly stronger at the landfall. That keeps, however, unless the storm significantly strengthens, it will remain a stage 7 on the cyclone destructive potential scale, which it would be basically equivalent to uh, a multi-billion-dollar storm in the United States. So obviously, it's a very, very, very destructive storm. It would be almost in the top 10% of any storm to make landfall if it were to make landfall in the Atlantic Ocean. Um, it would be almost in the top 10%. I think it would be in the top 12 with its current rating. So,
um,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we have a new satellite image here. I believe this was from 15 or 25 minutes ago, around about there, and you could certainly see the effects of the eye wall placement cycle going on my screen. Um, if you would
Yeah. And that's basically what we've been trying to describe to you here. So, obviously, this is not the scenario that we anybody wanted to see. The good news here, if any, is that even though the convection has blown up, the eye, which was trying to clear out, isn't clearing out. And so that is a good thing when you're taking a look at satellite and you're trying to ask yourself, well, how strong is the storm on satellite? You need to take into account its eye temperature. And as you can see here, the eye has actually gotten colder, which means that there's more clouds in the eye and it's not as deep, which basically means the storm's not as strong. So that seems to be a saving grace as long as that eye doesn't end up clearing out. The storm shouldn't get too significantly strong from the sidewall replacement cycle.
are you on my screen right now?
I am not on your screen. Let me get to your screen.
All right, let me know.
You are on,
All right.
and I just
As you can,
messed up. I just messed up here.
oh, well, I'll describe it.
Yeah, go ahead.
There,
They can still see it. It's just not as large as I would want it.
oh, well, the eye wall right here, the edge of the eye wall, rather, I should say, is really getting close to the coastline here. Again, the imagery is about 15 to 25 minutes old, around about. You can see on the microwave over here to the left, it's making an eye wall replacement cycle, and I can clearly quite see it, and the convection being associated with this cyclone here. Um, and the conditions will keep on deteriorating over in Beira and places to the north of it. If I had to guess, people around the general region, if there's a city or town or village in this general vicinity,
Nope.
they're probably getting the strongest winds. There isn't.
I'm looking at the maps right now, and the only thing that I can see in that region is Colorinho, and that is significantly inland. So
Mm.
I don't really see anything else here.
Uh,
There's
well,
just
regardless, this go ahead.
yeah, there's it like I said, that's just from there all the way up to the Maromeo National Reserve. There's it's a really unpopulated area of coastline.
Well, that's good news to hear, certainly. But either way, it looks like the strongest winds, the edge of the eye, might be right onto the coast right now, or um, might be just barely about to get on it shortly here soon. Um, Again, people in Vieira and possible cities to the north of it, um, right now, just hunker down where you are, stay safe. Um, if you could provide any updates at all safely, don't go outside just so you can get connections. Stay where you are. Stay hunkered down till this storm passes. You might get the eye, might get the extra eye. I haven't seen a loop of this in a while, so I
Yep.
don't know exactly if you're going to get into the eye. But if you do, you're going to see it calm for however long or whatever part you're in the eye, you're going to see it calm for maybe, could be a minute, could be, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so. Um, and it'll start ramping quickly back up afterwards. And after that passes, and after the threat has subsided, you could finally assess the damage anywhere. I'm just looking in the chat here, see what else there is.
Okay.
Go ahead, Devin.
No, I finally fixed it. So there we go. I figured out what was wrong.
I think there's a lot of people wondering in the chat when it's going to make landfall and how bad the conditions expected in the area are going to be. Pretty much, I think for the most part, is what people are
Someone
asking here.
someone just posted in the chat that they're actually expecting the storm surge to be near 8 meters. I don't know exact if you could provide a source for that claim. I would like to see it, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything that suggested that the storm surge is supposed to be as high as 8 meters.
Uh,
Um, and that would obviously be even worse than a 5 meter surge because like I said, I did see that there was a bit of a seawall protecting the city of Beira, but I don't know if it would be able to withstand an 8 meter surge.
that's
Yes.
if that's true, that's getting really really bad. Um,
Uh,
Again,
someone
if you're near the
just
coast,
someone
go ahead.
just asked when the storm's expected to start affecting Zimbabwe, and my answer would be I would expect for effects to start coming into Zimbabwe in roughly, I would say, another 12 hours yet. Uh, will effects really start significantly coming into Zimbabwe. So I would say another 12 hours yet before that. Does it look like the eye wall will collapse? No. I really wish I could say otherwise. I really want to say that this storm is going down in intensity. I really want to be giving good news here, but no, um, that's just not happening, unfortunately.
Somebody is saying, I'm assuming they're in Beira, saying that they think the seawall may have broke. If so, if
Oh,